My name is Prema and this is my positive birth story. Let me start with my delivery report. It says 26-year-old gave birth at 39 weeks 6 days to a vigorous female infant. Patient and infants are doing well. And here's my favorite part. He says, I was present in the delivery room and immediately supervised this uncomplicated vaginal delivery. I agree with the above documentation signed by the MD. This report, the first time I read it, I was filled with so much joy and so much gratitude for the experience I had. Tuesday morning, that's 16th of September, I started experiencing contractions. The previous week, I'd already started experiencing Braxton Hicks, so I knew that these contractions were definitely labor. They were more intense, but by this time, it was still about 10 minutes apart, so I started to time them. I told my husband about it, but I didn't want to go into the hospital too early. I said I wanted to go when I either lost my mucus plug or when my water broke. So just went for a walk, getting the car seat installed, getting the hospital bag checked, just checking all our boxes before we left. None of these happened, so decided to sleep. I couldn't go through the night, like a full night, because I was really in pain. The contractions were getting closer together. They were more intense by this point. I was just like moving up and about. I was rolling, breathing through them, practicing everything that I had learned. Anyway, by Wednesday morning, I started to take a shower. I saw that I lost my mucus plug. I was like, thank God, at least first sign, check. Let us go to hospital. We made our way there. I hated the car ride. It was just, I don't know if I was having contractions or I was just tired, but I wanted this experience to end. At every red light, every stop, I was just so tired. I wanted to immediately get there. Now we get to the hospital and then I agreed for a cervical check. He said I was 4 centimeters dilated. Okay, not too bad. However, I was in a gray area. I was told that if I was 3 centimeters, I would have been asked to go home. And if I was 5 centimeters, I would have been admitted in. However, at 4, they were going to leave me with a choice. Then again, I had seen so many videos about how oxytocin helps to progress labor. So I decided to labor at home in my own space. We went home. I couldn't eat anything. I was just trying to have like a tea with some bread, and I was just in too much pain to, like enjoy the food. So I was just having like a heat pad on my back. I tried some Tylenol, didn't do anything. I was just trying everything to manage the contraction intensity, but nothing helped at this point. So about 6 p.m., I remember my husband coming back from work. I told him that it was time to go into the hospital. I feel baby coming. Contractions were closer. They were more intense. I can't breathe through them. I was even getting angry. So we made our way there the second time. And now I was checked again, cervical check. And it was just about 6 centimeters. I'm like, or 5 or something like that. Like, I've been laboring the whole day. How did I move just from 4 to about 5 or 6? I was so disappointed. In fact, at that point, I told them that I didn't want any cervical check again because it was going to affect my mind. If I felt like I was not progressing, I would start feeling discouraged. So I immediately asked for some pain relief. Okay, I asked for pain relief, and then the nurse was like, sure. At this moment, I was in triage. There was no delivery room or bed available. They said September was one of their busiest months. I mean, of course, dirty December, that's where we'll get you. Right? So she comes, she brings the IV. A lot of people said placing the IV was one of the hardest parts for them. It wasn't too bad compared to the contractions I was feeling. Oh, give me the IV any day. So I was given the morphine. I remember the pain relief happening. I remember feeling so high. I was like, wow, okay, this is not bad. Am I really in labor? I was feeling drowsy. I was just lying down. Now I started to contemplate, because if I'm not feeling contractions, then I'm not getting closer to labor, right, or to delivery. So I decided to stand and then to move around, sway in the room to allow gravity to work, to allow my body to do its thing. Around 11 p.m., the nurse comes in and says that, oh, finally a room is available, so we are going to wheel you there. I'm like, wheel who? No, I will walk there because I needed labor to move quickly. So we all walked into the delivery room. I looked at the place. I was like, okay, this is where we're about to give birth. Now, I was given the option. They asked me if I wanted to take the epidural. But before I answered the question, I had like a cervical check again, and I was about 8 centimeters. So I was contemplating if I was able to make it this far, 8 centimeters, maybe, just maybe I could do without the epidural. And then I asked them, would it be possible to have the morphine when I'm 10 centimeters dilated and I have to push? And they're like, oh no, you can't have the morphine by then. And then I said, okay, can you give me at least some food, because I'm hungry. I've not eaten for about 40 hours by then. And then they said, if I was going to take the epidural, then they will not advise me to eat, so I should just have some water or some apple juice to keep my energy up. And then at that moment, I was just tired. I was like, okay, it's fine, I'll just take the epidural. So the epidural, the anesthesiologist came, and then I remember I was having a contraction at the time she was about to start. I'm like, no, please wait. So she said, okay, are you having a contraction? I was like, yes. Like, okay, that's fine. So I remember I was just this way, and I was breathing through it, and then immediately it passes. She was like, okay, she's going to do it really quickly. I felt the needle go through my back. Obviously, it's a needle, it's a pretty big needle. So I felt it scratch my back. I was like, ouch. And she's like, okay. So I was trying to stay still because I didn't want to move to cause any complications. So I was just like, then after the medicine goes, I feel the medicine moving in my body. I'm like, okay. One thing that I was wondering what happened, I wanted to know how numb this feels like. But my legs were not completely numb. I could feel them. It felt like pins and needles. They were definitely feeling weird. It felt like they were inflamed. I can't explain it, but I felt like my legs were balloons. In fact, my entire waist down, so I didn't want to look at them. I was like, if I opened this blanket and I saw that my legs were huge, I'll feel very disappointed. But that's how it felt, right? And I couldn't really control them. In fact, if I decided to move one leg, I felt like it would be flying out like some helium balloons. Anyway, fast forward, I was given the epidural, contractions stopped. I was calm, everything was cool. I was just there waiting, looking at the time. Then they came, put the catheter in to draw out the urine and all of that. I was just there looking at them do what they need to do. Now one nurse comes in and says that, can they give me some pitocin to progress labor? And I declined because I've seen so many videos about it and I didn't want that. And then another nurse comes in and says that, oh, should they help break my water to progress labor? And then I agreed to that one because obviously my water needs to break at some point. So manually she comes and then she uses her equipment to break my water, and then they see that there's meconium stain on baby. So I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I was just hoping it was not a complication. So my water breaks, and now I moved from 9 centimeters to 8 centimeters. How? And then you're saying that, oh, the sac was pressing on the cervix, so it caused it to look more dilated. I was like, I still need to get to 10 centimeters before I start to push. Fast forward, Wednesday ends, we are now in Thursday, September 18th. I've still not pushed, baby is still not here. I knew that the journey was not over, right? Now around 5 a.m. the old shift needed to leave and the new shift came in. So they all said their goodbyes, they wished me well, and then the new set came in. Residents, doctors, nurses, midwives, student midwives, they introduced themselves. Now they're all coming in, so I knew that, the show is about to start. Then I saw some doctors and they introduced themselves that they are from the NICU. So I was wondering what was going on. They said it was because of the meconium stain, just to cover out their business and make sure that baby was fine. The place looked so busy with lights and doctors. It literally looked like a scene from Grey's Anatomy. I was like, what's about to happen here? Now I see my doctor walk in. Okay, she's my OBGYN, and she tells me that, oh, it's time, let's do some practice pushing. She asked me what position I wanted to push in. And then, but before that, I knew what position I wanted to push in. I'd practiced it at home. So I said I wanted to squat, but obviously because of the epidural. So they brought the bed up, and then my legs were up. I remember my husband holding this leg and another nurse holding the other leg. And then she told me that at each contraction, I'll push 3 times. I just need to take a deep breath and then push for 10 seconds, but it'll help me do it with the counting. So we did the first 10 seconds, then I take a deep breath, then I'll hold, and I'll push. Then I did that 3 times, and then the doctor was like, I'm doing so well. It's my first time. I'm doing really well. She said she needed to go out and look after other patients. It's my first time. It may take between minutes to hours, so I shouldn't worry. I should just do my best. So she leaves the room, and then the others were like, okay, we need to continue. So at each contraction, I'll take in a deep breath, then I'll push for like 10 seconds. Now I realized that the count started getting exciting because I was looking at the resident's doctor's face. The person was literally in front of me about to catch the baby, right? Her face was straight the entire time. However, I remember at the 3rd or 4th push, she started looking excited. She was smiling, she was counting more with more excitement. So I knew that I was definitely close. Now, one nurse comes in, bless her. She says that she thinks that instead of counting to 10, we should count to 12. And then instead of putting my legs down when it's time for a rest, okay, I should keep my legs up. So immediately she said that, we said, okay, let's give it a try. Then I remember at the next contraction, I took in a deep breath and then I started to push 12. You see, I think the idea was when the baby was coming out, usually at the 10, she immediately goes back, but at 12, it would have helped her to come out quickly. And I did the first one, and I did the second time. And then now I could tell that everybody was happy. I asked my husband, like, oh, they could see her hair. She has a lot of hair. She has, also, I knew that she was almost here. Now, at the third or the push that literally brought her out, they said I needed to give him my last final one. Honestly, that one I felt the pressure. I was already feeling contractions, but this time I felt her coming. In fact, it was the only push that caused me to cry, because at the time I wasn't really feeling any pain because of a lot of pain because of the epidural. But when I gave that final push, I felt it come out of my body. So I gave the final one with all my might, and I pushed. And then I gave out a cry. But I heard her cry, and that was it. I knew that she was here. I knew that it was over. I was like, where is she? I was, the whole moment, everybody was like, congratulations, you've done so well. The whole room, everyone was so excited. Thank God she was already crying, she was breathing, so the NICU nurses actually left, so the room became fewer people. They asked me if I wanted to do skin to skin. I said yes. So baby was put on my chest. And then they started to clean her. The first thing I did was I looked at her face. I'm like, this child doesn't look like me. What's all this? After all my work. But that was fine because she's absolutely beautiful. She's precious. So they just cleaned her. They asked my husband to cut the cord. And then he says, most definitely. So they took pictures of that as well. And then they cut the cord. Oh, that was the moment, that defining moment. I started to push at 7:30 a.m. September 18th. Then maybe it was out 8:14 a.m. September. It was just a beautiful moment. The moment I became a mom. Now after birth, thinking that, oh, okay, maybe it's out, like we are done with the serious parts, right? No. I was told that, so my doctor comes and was like, wow, this girl, you've given birth to the baby before me. But yeah, I'm grateful that it happened that way. So she says I should give her one more push. Oh, me, I used to think the placenta was just like, this big, right? So that I didn't need to do any serious push. Oh, the woman was like, give me one final one. So I kind of gave it to her. That's how this huge organ just came out. Oh, but when I saw it, I was so surprised. I was like, is the placenta that big? But I'm grateful it came out in one piece because it didn't cause any complication. So I was told that, oh, I had like a second degree test and you needed to do some stitches. Now I was asked to up my epidural because, before that, I was feeling the contractions. I remember telling the nurse that I have the epidural, but I can feel some contractions on my side. She told me, oh no, I should sleep on the other side to allow the medicine to work. It wasn't true. I'm sure she was just gaslighting me by then. Yeah, they wanted me to feel the contractions so that I could feel them while I was pushing. Anyway, so this time around, she gave me a button. I pressed it and then I could feel the medicine work. I couldn't feel anything at all. She did the stitches. Now I thought that, oh, all is done, giving birth to the baby, birth the placenta, they've done the stitches. Now this nurse comes in, oh, she needs to do a fundal massage. I'm like, why? She said, oh, she needs to prevent postpartum hemorrhage. I said, that's fine. I wasn't expecting how the pain of that. She was just on my abdomen, like she was kneading bread. What was that? It was so painful and it was so unexpected because I thought the hard part was over, right? So anyway, she did that every 15 minutes for about 2 hours. It was so uncomfortable. Also, they had to take off the epidural from my back. Okay, I've seen a video about it. It looked really scary, but it wasn't scary at all. The worst is like having a wax. Okay, so they just kind of took the tape from my back. That's how it felt like. And I was asked to go and use the washroom. I also didn't expect the feeling, the burning sensation that happened. So the nurse helps me to walk to the bathroom and then I pee. The moment I pee, she just poured like cold water to soothe the place. So it was like, there was a sharp sting, but the cold water immediately relieves it. And now it's not like I was learning to walk for the first time because the epidural was wearing off. But my legs had not fully gained control of them. So one leg was going, but the other leg still was very wobbly. So, but they helped me take one step at a time. Oh, in an hour's time, I had full control of my legs. I could wiggle everything. I could walk up and down. I was fine. This is my best story. I'm grateful to God for how it happened. When I was preparing for delivery, I had a discussion with my friend who had given birth like earlier in the year. She was like, oh, she read a book, Supernatural Childbirth, and then she wrote everything she wanted to see. In fact, she said she labored for about 3 hours and her boy was out in minutes. I'm like, wow. So I read the same book and I wrote down the things I wanted to see. I wanted a healthy baby. I didn't want any postpartum complications. I also remember saying that if the labor is very short and I give birth very fast, I'll think that labor and delivery is not hard and I'll start giving birth and I'll give birth to 6 children. So God, I beg. You make the labor a little long and then when it's time to push, I'll do that very fast. Maybe I should have been very specific because God said, I have heard your prayer. He gave me 48 good hours and counting in labor. Hey, even when baby came, when the delivery part was fast, I remember that's exactly what I asked for. The pushing part was really fast, but the labor part was so long. So it just made me realize that God is a God that answers prayer. Whatever you say, He'll give it to you. So anyway, thank you so much for listening and for staying this long. I want to extend an invitation to anyone who wants to share their story on this platform. Just put in the comment section, DM, or I will reach out if you put in the comment section. Okay, thank you. If you want more of this kind of content, please don't forget to like, save, comment, share, subscribe, and then hit the notification button to be notified anytime we drop a new video. Thank you so much for watching my birth story. Love you. Bye.